Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. This bizarre 1923 finale fan theory could mean a huge change to Yellowstone's Dutton family tree. A bizarre fan theory about Spencer Dutton, Brandon Sklinner, and Elizabeth Strafford, Michelle Randolph, emerged after 1923 Season 2, and it's as ridiculous as it is plausible. In 1923 Season 2's finale, the Dutton family's war swept through Montana, at the train station in Livingston, and the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. Spencer's arrival in Montana prompted the war's long-awaited outbreak, with a phone call from Marshal Mamie Fawcett, Jennifer Carpenter, to Sheriff McDowell, Robert Patrick, alerting key Paradise Valley residents of Dutton's arrival. Spencer's nephew, Jack Dutton, Darren Mann, wasn't around to fight the family's war in the finale, after his unceremonious death in 1923's penultimate episode. The tragedy left Jack's wife a widow, topping the list of terrible things that happened to Elizabeth Strafford in 1923. Spencer was also left without a life partner at the end of 1923 Season 2, with his wife, Alexandra Dutton, Julia Schlepfer, dying from hypothermia after delivering their baby, John. Elizabeth and Spencer could be connected past 1923, according to this fan theory about the widow and widower. Alex's husband dies too, although it happens 45 years later in Spencer Dutton's time jump at the end of 1923 Season 2. In the flash forward to 1969, where Spencer walks to his wife's grave and collapses, 1923's narrator, Elsa Dutton, Isabel May, tells us what happened to her brother long after the events of 1923 Season 2. Elsa tells us that for Spencer, Alex's memory didn't fade. She tells us that when Spencer Dutton died, Alex was all that he thought about, with the war hero meeting his bride in the afterlife. Elsa also tells us what happens more immediately. Spencer never forgot Alex's memory, and he opted not to remarry after her death. That said, Elsa Dutton tells us that while Spencer never made another woman his wife, he did take the comfort of a widow and made another boy. Elsa also tells us that Spencer refused to marry this widow and that one day she disappeared. After Jack Dutton's death left Strafford a widow in the finale, many Yellowstone fans believe that Elizabeth is the widow who consoles Spencer and bears his second child, which would explain why 1923 screenwriter Taylor Sheridan was so vague about the details. Naturally, Elizabeth Strafford and Spencer having a child together would have ramifications for the Dutton family tree. It would mean that Elizabeth Strafford was the mother of two Dutton family descendants, bearing an unnamed child with Jack, and according to the theory, an unnamed child with Spencer sometime after that. The connection is plausible, since it's likely that Elizabeth Strafford returned to the Yellowstone Ranch after the Dutton family's war, perhaps to visit Cara Dutton, Helen Mirren, bringing Jack's child to meet his family. While Elizabeth is back in Montana, it's easy to see how she could fall for Spencer. Elizabeth would likely take a considerable amount of time to visit the ranch, probably over the summer, and perhaps for a week or two. The 1923 characters would cross paths at the Yellowstone Ranch, and having both lost a lover in the war against Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, would have a significant loss to bond over. That said, it isn't enough to coerce Spencer to tie the knot with Elizabeth if she is indeed the widow he confides in. Elizabeth, being Jack's widow, potentially explains why he refuses to marry her, since marrying his nephew's bride would have its complications. Still, a potential child by Spencer and Elizabeth probably isn't John Dutton Hugh. While it looks like Alex and Spencer's baby is John Dutton i.e.'s Kevin Costner, father after they named their baby John in 1923's finale, that would mean that Taylor Sheridan broke the Dutton family tree, since Spencer is a second-generation Dutton, and John Dutton too is from the fourth generation. It also doesn't add up for Spencer and Elizabeth's baby to be John Dutton too, since he would technically still be a third-generation Dutton. Regardless, the theory being correct would leave the doors wide open for Sheridan's next prequel,
Since its
explosive
1944.
debut, Yellowstone, and its prequels, 1883, 1923, have spun an intricate web of legacy, violence, and loyalty through the generations of the Dutton family. With 1923 bringing new characters and conflicts into the fold, fans have been digging deep into every line of dialogue, every lingering stare, and every ambiguous decision. And one bizarre theory about the finale of 1923 is gaining traction, not because it's the most likely scenario, but because it could fundamentally change everything we thought we knew about the Dutton family tree. The theory: Spencer Dutton isn't who we think he is. The core of the theory hinges on Spencer Dutton, the younger brother of John Dutton Sr., and one of the standout characters of 1923. Many fans believed that Spencer would ultimately become the grandfather of Kevin Costner's John Dutton, i.e. from Yellowstone. But by the end of 1923's first season, timelines start to tangle and a strange idea emerges. What if Spencer Dutton isn't actually a Dutton at all, or not a biological one at least? In this theory, Spencer may be the adopted son of James and Margaret Dutton, taken in after the death of their daughter Elsa in 1883. Some fans speculate that Elsa's death might not have ended her story completely. What if she had a child, secretly, before her tragic demise? Could Spencer be her son? Could the Duttons have taken him in and raised him as their own to avoid scandal, or simply to protect him? This theory doesn't just hinge on one stray thought. It pulls together threads from 1883, 1923, and even Yellowstone, weaving a wild tapestry of emotional secrets, hidden heritage, and the blurred lines between blood and family. Clues hidden in plain sight. The timelines are murky but flexible enough for the theory to hold water. Elsa was of childbearing age during the events of 1883, and her relationship with Sam, the Comanche warrior she briefly married, could have resulted in a pregnancy. With the trauma of her death and the burden of survival in the West, it wouldn't be surprising if James and Margaret chose to protect the child by raising him as their own. If Spencer is indeed Elsa's son, that would make him a Dutton by blood, but in a different branch of the tree, and that would make his descendants different from what fans originally assumed. The Yellowstone Ranch might not have passed through the line of James Dutton's son, John Sr., but instead through his grandson via Elsa. That would flip the entire Dutton family tree upside down. This theory could also explain why Spencer seems to have such a distinct identity in 1923. His experiences in Africa, his demeanor, and even his romantic entanglements feel somewhat disconnected from the core Dutton identity. He's both part of the family and a bit apart from it. Maybe that's by design. A hidden lineage with huge implications. If this theory holds true, it could ripple through every corner of Yellowstone. John Dutton, i.e., as played by Kevin Costner, may not be the great-grandson of James Dutton in the straightforward patriarchal line we've assumed. Instead, he could be the descendant of Elsa Dutton, tying back to her and Sam's union. That would introduce indigenous blood into the Dutton lineage, something that has thematic resonance with the land disputes and Native American rights that have been central to Yellowstone since the beginning. Imagine the irony. John Dutton, the staunch defender of his family's claim to the land, may actually owe his claim not to the male line, but to the very union between a white pioneer woman and a Native man, one that defied the cultural norms of the time. That twist would make John's battles with Thomas Rainwater and the Broken Rock Reservation more emotionally and historically charged than ever before. What the finale suggests, and what it doesn't. In 1923's finale, Spencer is adrift, emotionally and geographically. His separation from his wife Alexandra and his uncertain journey back to Montana keep him in limbo. He's portrayed almost like an outsider, trying to make his way home to a family that may no longer fully recognize or accept him. That might not just be storytelling coincidence. It could be a symbolic gesture, hinting at his actual outsider status within the family. If Spencer was raised a Dutton but born of Elsa and Sam, he might carry the Dutton name without the Dutton inheritance. That might be why he is sent away, why he doesn't seem to inherit land, why he's never mentioned in Yellowstone, because the secret of his true parentage was buried along with the trauma of that earlier era. A mirror to Yellowstone. This kind of twist would mirror the themes of Yellowstone itself. The show thrives on the tension between what is earned and what is inherited, what is claimed and what is deserved. If Spencer's lineage is a buried secret, and if John Dutton IEI is descended from him.